Hi, last week I showed you a fun tool called Google Story Builder. Like many of the tools we use today, the end result of your students' efforts is a link to a project that lives online somewhere. I promised that this week's Fun Fact Friday would show you a way to use a simple Google form to collect the links to such a project. So let's get started. First, you will need to go to drive.google.com. You may need to log in with your school credentials, but once you are in your Drive, go to the New button and select Forms. You'll have to press More first, and then you'll see Forms at the top of the list. Excellent. Now that we are in Forms, we can start creating the questions that will collect the information from our students. First, you will want to name the form. It's important to be as specific as possible so that you can easily find the form later in your Drive, and it'll also help the students know that they are in the right place. You might even want to add some more information in the description area, maybe some last-minute reminders to students. Don't forget to give the correct link, or any other information you might have. Before we start to add the questions, though, I want to take a second to explain how forms and sheets work as partners. When someone fills out a form, the responses can be viewed in the Responses tab here, but they can also be collected into a Google Sheet, which is like an Excel page. Each column of the sheet will hold one question's answers. So when you consider that, it's important to think of how you want the results collected. To that end, I always make sure to collect first names separately from last names. This really helps with alphabetizing. So I'm going to go ahead and put first name here, and notice that Google recognized what I was doing and changed this to a short answer question. I'm going to use the floating toolbar to the right to add another question, last name. And again, it's automatically changing to short answer, but I can use this drop down to pick what kind I want. And we're going to keep going. So I'm going to add finally a question here for multiple periods. So if I teach multiple periods of students, I might also want to create a multiple choice question. Which period are you in? And then using the multiple choice, I might say period 1, period 2, or period 3. This gives me the added benefit when we're in the sheet of sorting first by class period and then by last name alphabetically if I wanted to organize my students in that way. And finally, and most importantly, I'm going to ask the big question, which is I want to provide them with a place to put the URL. So what is the URL for your Google story? And they would be able to put their answer here in the short text. So because all of these questions are required, I will go and check the switches to require all of our questions here by clicking in there. And you can do this as you go, one question at a time, or at the end, as I've just done. And now we're going to check a few settings before we actually give this to the students. So up in settings, which is represented by this cogwheel or the gear, I have a variety of settings that I can look at. Sometimes I collect email addresses. It's not necessary, but sometimes I do that. I don't see any other that I really need to check off, so I'm good. I'm going to go ahead and hit save on that. In order to give the form to my students, I'm going to press the send button. From the send menu, we have 3 options. We can send via email, send via link, or embed it within a web page. But the easiest way to do this is to send the link by copying and pasting it into an update or into an assignment within the learning management system that we use here at our school called Schoology. So I would copy and paste this link, and I would post it to Schoology. So let's see what it looks like from a student's perspective. I'm going to go ahead and fill it in as if I am a student in my own class. I'm going to say that I'm in period 2, and I'm going to just give a random link here. I'm going to put a link here. We'll just pretend that's my project. I'm going to hit submit. Fantastic. So I just did what the students would do. So simple, so fast. That took just a few seconds. And now let's look at it from the teacher's perspective. Look, I have a response. So I can look at my responses this way. I could cycle through them one at a time. Imagine having 40 of them right here. But this is when we're going to talk about using Google Sheets. So rather than cycle through the responses one at a time and doing my own copying and pasting, I'm just going to press the Create Spreadsheet button. It's represented by this little green square in the right here. You have to press the button though in order to create the spreadsheet. It does not create automatically. So if you were using Google Forms a lot in the past, this is actually a new thing where you do have to create the spreadsheet. Now that I've created the spreadsheet, it automatically builds it with the same name as the form, and then it adds this little parentheses responses to it, which I think is really helpful. And I always go with the default name of the spreadsheet. I'm going to press create. So now I'm in my Google Drive. I'm looking at the Google Story Builder form responses, and a couple things that I think you'll love. Notice the timestamp. So now I know exactly when my students are submitting their projects. I've got them by first, last name, period. So when I have 40 of these in here, I can easily sort however I want. And now I've got a link to the student's project. But here's one extra bonus that I'll throw at you at the very end here. Since they're in a Google Sheet, you could now post the link to this sheet with the right shared privileges to your classes so that they could all see each other's projects. So if these projects are something you want your students to be able to share with each other, just click on the share button, update the viewing privileges, and then post it, and they can all see each other's work. All right. Well, I hope you enjoyed this fun fact. I'll see you next time.